Hello, welcome to Minka, Lesk, the painting tutorial, or my painting tutorial, part 2. And we're going in immediately with some dryad bark. Now, before you are wondering, oh, it's not the smoothest video you promised. The videos would get better. Well, they're going to, but the problem I have, you see, is that I've recorded so much footage in advance and I can't unpaint the model unless I strip it and start again. And I don't really want to do that. But moving forwards, things will be getting better. There might be one more clip or one more part that is not quite as smooth as the other ones on it. But I think I've figured out the problem, and it's all to do with the variable frame rate compatibility with Apple and my video editing software, that kind of thing. As you know, when I film like on the benches of things, it's smooth as anything. And other videos, that's because it's filmed with a dedicated camcorder, not an iPhone. So that's where the problem lies. But anyway, as you can see, we are going in. We're doing the hair on Minka Lesk. Dryad bark as an undercoat or a base coat, sorry, at this stage. Just going to drag the model over because it's been a fair while since I actually did this. And so, to look at my thought processes and what I'm doing. So as you can see, I mean, the video, the quality is good enough to see what I'm doing at least. If I was watching it back in the future, I wanted to know, I'd say I'd forgotten how to paint Minka Lesk, or how I wanted to paint her like I used to, and I wanted to remember it. I could happily watch this, I think. So it's good enough for that. But I do promise the videos will get better in the future, because I've kind of worked things out a bit now. So I'm hoping that moving forwards, things will be so much smoother. Raw footage, by the way, is very smooth, so it's difficult to ascertain. Okay, next. Well, Mechanicus Standard Grey, as you can see. And this looks like we are starting on the sword. Here, just getting some, we're doing some basic non-metallic metals effects on the sword. And Mechanicus Standard Grey is a good place to start. And that's another reason why I wanted to paint on this pose, the open sword hand like that, holding the sword aloft. I figured that would be a good place to, a good pose in which to show off, well, not show off, but just show a rudimentary non-metallic metal effect. I'm not normally I don't bother with non-metallic metals, but they do have their place. And ever since I started doing it, I was like, yeah, I kind of get it now. I do kind of get it. You've got a lot of control over it. Don't get me wrong, metallics have their place. They do have their place. I thoroughly believe that. But in the old days, there were no metallic paints, and so we literally had to do them this way. It looks like I'm using the Artificer layer brush there by Games Workshop. Still getting some usage out of that. I mean, it's still got a little bit of life left in it yet. Just showing you, watering it down. Basically, non-metallic metals. Doing silver. Basically, greys through to almost white. But you've got to pick where you want the light to catch the object, whether it's a helmet or a weapon or a shield or whatever it is. And the light won't change obviously because you've painted it on. It won't change direction. So you got to pick carefully whether you want it like top down, side on, bit of both, whatever you choose. Like say it's on one side of like a Space Marine helmet, for example, say the left hand side, it will always be on the left hand side. The highlights. Whereas if you paint the metallics, then it will just vary depending on where the natural light hits it. But these are metallic metal effects. I never used them for years. I never saw the point for years and years and years. Actually, I just thought, well, now we've got metallic paints. It was actually, like it felt like a blessing because wow, we've got metallic paints now. We can use metallics. But in the old days, we didn't have that option or that luxury, so we had to do non-metallic metals. And to start with, it didn't really work. But there you go. Right now, we are using some metallic. We're going with a rough iron, but these are small areas. Now, this is like the hilt of the sword here, as you can see. Just getting it in now, so that because if I do more work on the sword itself, don't want to be coming down that low to the hilt. So it's kind of reminding me not to go down that far, really. I actually like a mixture of metallics and non-metallics as opposed to just doing solely metallics or solely non-metallics. Like I say, to begin with, I didn't, well, in the early days, that's all we had, non-metallic metal. So that's all we had to do for everything. And then when metallic paints came along, it was like, great, don't have to do this non-metallic stuff anymore. We just paint metallics. And now I just use both techniques, whatever works best for me, really, at the time. Whatever I see fit. I feel I have more control over the non-metallic stuff, but I am thinking in the future of combining the two on one subject, like one object, whether it's like I don't know, like a ball or a helmet or whatever it is, a spear tip. In the future, I'm talking. We'll start off with a metallic and then work up to some non-metallics. See how the two combine. That'll be an interesting video, I think, for the future. So as you can see, I'm still painting in what I call real time. You see, almost every brushstroke. In fact, I think you do see every brushstroke. There's nothing added on after the fact. Everything that's painted is what you see at the time, not is what I did earlier. So that's what I like about these. And again, I will reiterate what I said on the last video, the last part. This was put to vote for my subscribers and viewers, and you overwhelmingly said you preferred watching every sort of brushstroke. The thing is, I'm not the fastest painter in the world, and so you have to bear in mind that, um, you know, uh, when I do paint, I'm not super fast. If you are after one of these painting tutorials that this is how to paint things quickly, I'm not your guy. I am. This is how I paint my models. It could take me a while. We could be here some time, but I want to get it right for me. I want the look to be right. And here you can see, look, another metallic paint going in with a little bit of lead belcher just for the muzzle of the gun. Now, the phenomenal painters out there would do this non-metallic metal as well. Yeah, could have done. But considering I'm not going to be like entering her in any competitions or anything like that, I'm not entering Golden Demon or Crystal Brush or anything like that. I decided, you know what? We'll just do a little metallic bit of lead belcher on the muzzle of the gun. The main part was the sword, which I've started work on. There's only a couple of metallic areas, like the magazine clip as well, and things like that. There's another way of just getting the model fully base coated. It's nice to get paint on every area, and I like that now. I mean, I've filmed part 3 already, and so um, part 3 I'll be entering the tutorial with a fully covered model, so that's good. Again, you can see how nice this pose of this model is. Whatever colors you decide to paint, whatever item, it's all fairly accessible for you to get to. Kind of forgot how slow I was at painting. It's funny watching it back. Like, yep, I'm a slow painter. Did tell you, did tell you. But this is how I achieve the results I achieve, and I'm more than happy with the results I achieve. I mean, I haven't done an on the bench or on the beach video in a long, long time. The paint along videos I do, but you know, you, some of you have said you paint along to these, which is nice. I like to watch painting tutorials when I'm sat up in bed, either at night or usually of an evening. That's when I like to watch them before I lay down to go to sleep. Sometimes I have to come back to them the following evening, but I've always preferred the longer ones. I did say, do you want me to do the quick ones, the quick fire ones, which I was hoping you weren't going to go for. I mean, obviously, if you had, then I would actually have filmed them that way. Or when I'd have thrown the odd longer one in here and there. But like I said before, you can see why now. I decided to break this tutorial down into the different parts. And although this is going to end up a higher standard, it's not going to be my highest standard by a long way, but a lot higher than I usually paint to. So normally I just paint the tabletop and that's it. Job done, move on to the next bit of shiny. But I do genuinely want to um, give this a little bit more attention, especially because she's a character as well. And to my shame, I don't actually know anything about the character in the lore, but that will change because I do intend to get some stories from Black Library or wherever. And once I've read about her, and then I can, I'll know her story. I've got another one to paint at some point, not exactly the same, but from a box set. As you know, this was a single character box that I bought from my local gaming store, actually. So this is good. So we're still just putting color down to cover the miniature. So at this stage, we've still got the rocks and the pipe sticking out of the rock. Tan earth. Tan earth. I think that's like a little tiny little belt section. Not a large section at all. Yeah, because I want these videos. I want my tutorials to be, not edit out mistakes. If I make mistakes, I'd like to include that in my tutorial. I mean, I'm calling them tutorial. How I paint a model. Then I can show how I go about fixing a mistake. If I've made a mistake, I need to fix it. Then I can show how I go about doing that, which is something I firmly believe in the value of, because it's helpful, right? I mean, the reason you watch tutorials on how people paint something is they show you mistakes, how they fix mistakes, or at least they warn you of dangers. Even if they say, look, even if they say I've edited out that, I've corrected it, or I've cleaned that up area up there, but watch out for, like, under the arm there or whatever it might be, because it's tricky. See, we're still a long way off even finishing a tabletop standard here, so this is why they're a bit longer. The thing is, when you don't have much paint on your brush and you have a small brush like an artificer layer brush, or like a 00 or something like that, or 000, you have a tiny speck of paint on your brush. And when you're doing like things like eyes or buttons or things like that nature, the paint on your bristles will dry up really quickly because there's not much paint there. There's not much water there, and so it will dry. So, biggest mistake I make, I'll tell you this on this video, and you won't even see it on this video, but I will tell you anyway. The biggest mistake I make is when I paint eyes, and I try to do both eyes with one blob of paint, and that's not a good practice because it dries up. Talking of drying up, Shabty Bone is a paint that does dry up quite quickly now, but I'm doing the like the head band that she's tied around her forehead, like that strip of ribbon there. Like I say, this is a paint. This is typical of a paint that dries really quickly. A lot of these bone color paints, flesh color paints do, and whites do. They can become quite chalky. Um, like I say, your Shabty Bone isn't what I would call chalky, but it does dry real quick. So you can't really hang around with it, or at least wash your brush off and re-dip it every time, and always use a wet palette when you're using these paints, unless you know exactly what you're doing and you're like kind of going in for the moment there and then. And her hair is kind of over the band a bit as well, so gotta bear that in mind. It's not like a straight band all the way around, which I'm glad about, because I don't know, they can look a little bit tacky sometimes, I think, or a little bit naff. So this is a bit more realistic, a bit more realism. She's tied the band around her head. Her hair's falling over it a bit. Shabty Bone is a good one to be getting on with. moment looks a bit right. Everything will be darkened down a little bit later on once we start using a wash and all that kind of thing. I mean, we're 20 minutes into this part, this section of the tutorial. As you can see, I wasn't exaggerating about painting slow. And that's the key with higher level painting, I think. Take your time, be patient. As soon as you let impatience in, you think, oh, I just want to get it done, blob the paint on, and you make a mess and it ruins it. Then you think, nah, you start losing interest in the, well, I'm speaking subjectively, start losing interest in the model and maybe go on to something else. So that's always something to watch out for. Aha, all right, now this is interesting. So I'm using a dry paint called Dawnstone from Citadel. And I'll be using a very, very small sort of dry brush thing here. Because I want to be painting the rocks that she stood on. So I'm going to go with some Dawnstone. So the usual deal. Dip the brush in, wipe it off. Because it's smaller though, you may have to do more of that kind of thing. And be very, very careful when dry brushing around a base. Watch out for the feet, and of course on this one, there's other objects and items too to worry about. That you don't hit them, like that the head there in the helmet, the skull in the helmet. But as I was saying, I'll just reiterate, take your time, do not rush it, and every so often stop, turn around the model, look it over, look at it from all angles. That way you can see what you've missed, what you haven't. I don't complete the base in this one, and I know that because I still haven't completed the base yet. Okay. Some brown there, which going for like a leatherish look to the scabbard of the sword. Of course, though, I mean, I'm using this tutorial to as a future reference point because I mean my other Minka Lesk figure probably has got a sword in the box or a sword on her. She might have. If she's not carrying it, she probably have it on a belt. Because it's how I paint these miniatures, not how you should paint them. Paint them whatever colors you want. But I want to go for a sort of a leathery type look here. Now we're on to back to a metallic paint. We're going with true copper effect. Now this, the ends of the scabbard. I find it a strange pose, really, because she's holding the sword in her right hand. So surely the scabbard, in my mind, would be on the opposite side. But I don't know, just for theatrical reasons, I guess. Maybe she drew the sword out with her left hand and then swapped hands and then got a gun. I have no idea. The fact she's got her gun in her left hand, um, and the fact that her scabbard is kind of set up for a left-handed person, I would say she is left-handed. Maybe I'll find out in the books. See, that's another good reason to read them, isn't it? And find out all the lore about a character in the background. Right, contrast medium and null oil. I'm showing you the consistency I'm using. That's just an old plastic top from a coffee container there. So I'm just really lightly washing over. I feel when you're trying to paint to a higher standard, it's better to go in lighter than darker. Otherwise, you have to, I don't know, it feels like you're having to do more work. You have to repaint things. This will just give you a rough idea of, you know, shadows, creases, that kind of thing. But this will ultimately start bringing your model to life. Let's get this first one on here like this. Just the thing is, I don't want to go crazy with washes. I mean, some people go absolutely nuts with them. I like using them in different ways. It is, don't get me wrong, it is satisfying to just slather a wash all over a model and straight from the pot. I've done with, there you go, job done. Maybe a quick dry brush, boom, done. But not when I want to go to a slightly higher standard. At least that's not what I want to do. So this is where I think we'll be leaving this part of the tutorial with the wash on. So I will say now, thank you for watching. You know, all the usual. Remember, all brushes lead to war. Please give the video a like, a thumbs up, because that really helps. And hopefully you'll see after this exactly what stage I'm at with it. So it'll look a bit more shiny. So there you go. Thus ends part 2.